Sometimes when people talk about science and faith, it feels like two worlds that never ever touch. But what if the more we learn about how the world works, we actually learn more about the one who made it? Today, we're talking with Dr. Bill Ranahan, and he knows a thing or two about that. And lucky me, I've had the privilege of knowing him for 25 years now. And Dr. Bill Ranahan is a genetics professor at Oral Roberts University. More importantly, he's a husband to Marcia and a father to his amazing 3 boys. And he loves Jesus so much. So he teaches future scientists. He also is the author. It's actually Cookin', this God of Wonders series that explores all the many connections and intersections between faith and science. And today we're going to cover a lot of ground. Buckle your seatbelts, my friends, because we are going to look at creation, God's universe through the lens of Scripture. Bill, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right. So, for maybe some of our listeners don't know your story yet, you've always had this mix of curiosity and intelligence and of faith. When did science first grab your attention?
That's a really good question. I grew up on a farm in the woods. And I think that looking back, what I would say would be the first moment was actually in nature and just sensing God's presence in nature. And with that presence came a sense of curiosity. And I just want to know how it all works. You know what I mean? Like you go outside and you're like, how does this all work together? You feel like it's alive and you want to know how. And so it's sort of funny because I grew up in the woods and just kind of desiring God's presence and to know him through creation. And then I go on this journey to be a scientist, and now I'm doing science with plants. So it kind of is a full circle thing.
Oh, that's fun. God has a funny way of doing that and having these full circle moments in our lives. Now, before you got to Oral Roberts University, and that's where I went to school too, before you became a professor there, you'd already done some significant research. For some of our listeners who might not be familiar with it, what kind of research were you involved in for your PhD work?
Yeah, I was fortunate to work on breast cancer research in particular, and the sort of the molecular side of that. So cancer is pretty complicated. We are pretty complicated. And so I was really focused on the origin of cancer. Like most cancers come from skin. And so I was looking at skin and I was looking at how it's organized and when that organization gets disrupted, how that leads to cancer development.
When you say that, it feels heavy to me. Like it feels like it can be a heavy field, but it's also full of breakthroughs. Can you just talk to us a little bit about what you're studying now and like where you find meaning in your work?
Yeah, you ever look at a piece of art? Maybe it's a painting, and the further, like the closer you get to it, the more you realize that the strokes are just getting smaller and smaller. Like it like you saw the big picture like a mosaic. You kind of move in closer and you realize that the bits keep getting smaller, and they all are interlocked and fitting together. And that's been my experience. Like you study cancer, you study the body, you study the cell, and you realize the longer you look at it, the more complex, the more intricate it is. And so whenever we do that and we're looking at a spaceship and you realize the intricacies of the wiring and the electronics and the physics behind that, or you're looking at a piece of art and it's just beautiful, you realize that to get it to that place with that kind of intricate design, somebody really loved doing this, right? Somebody like was really into it. And for me, that's what's meaningful about the work. Cancer has revealed to us the ways in which our bodies have been designed for flourishing.
Really? Can you say that cancer has revealed the ways? Can you say that again? Because you just broke my brain in a good way.
Yeah, so our study of cancer has revealed and opened up the entire molecular biology field of science. It is because we are trying to figure out what has gone wrong that we've discovered how it's designed to go right. So most of what we know about the cell and signaling and how the body works together has come from cancer research. And so it is literally revealed to us all of, for instance, the hallmarks of cancer. This is a recent discovery. We've kind of put together 10 of these hallmarks, which are things that have to go wrong for you to get cancer. And so you could also look at that as 10 fail-safe mechanisms that are designed into every single cell that, when functioning normally, allows you to thrive. It just depends on how you want to look at it.
Wow. Wow. Now, I remember maybe about 10 years or so ago, you almost had this sense of, I don't want to say guilt. It wasn't bad, but yeah, at the time you were teaching like first-year med students, and you knew the different points of the coursework that were just going to blow their minds with like, oh, God did this. I don't know if you remember that conversation, but I got a feeling you had mentioned art. I just saw you like taking these students through a museum of God's ordered universe. And you were just like, oh, I can't wait to show them this. I can't wait to the next room, and it's just going to blow their mind. What are some of those things that when you're teaching your students and you come across those little strokes that you were talking about? What are some of those that really showcase God's wonder?
You could pick so many things. The fact that life exists in an entropic universe.
Mm-hmm.
I have a cup of tea here. I've had to warm it up twice because it keeps cooling off.
Yeah, things are moving from a state of order to chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is entropy. This is
Entropy.
the natural flow of the universe. We're going from order to disorder. Things are going from high concentration to low, including heat. So we understand this. Just leave the thing alone, it'll fall apart all on its own, right? So in this universal reality of degradation, things falling apart, and if you just leave it alone, it'll just go less complex. In that background, that inescapable place, we find life. We find complexity. We find order. We find life that can actually make more life. And that shouldn't be. You know, I tell students, hey, if you look at the stars and you look in every single direction, what you see is dust and ashes, mostly the void and emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the planet Earth out, there is no life. There is no complexity. It's just, right? But on this planet, for some inexplicable reason, not only is there life, but it's flourishing. So this is a contrast. You've got to see the contrast. Dust and ashes everywhere, and then there's this one planet teeming with life. Why? How? Like, that's what we want to unpack.
That's amazing. When you think about, like, you know, we think the chances of a lottery ticket are, you know, why do you even bother? The chances are so abysmal that you would, but we've won the cosmological lottery, and to think it's an accident, like, I don't think it's an accident.
It's almost like if you woke up and there was a pot of gold at the end of your bed, and you were freaking out, and you call everybody, you tell everybody it's amazing, right? And then the next morning you wake up, pot of gold. Next morning, pot of gold. Next morning, pot of gold. Eventually, you're like, oh yeah, it's just a pot of gold. It just appears in the end of my bed, duh, right? And everybody's society will be like, oh yeah, that just happens. It's just a thing that happens, right? That's still insane, even if you're used to it. Even if you keep waking up every morning and the sun is shining and the birds are singing, that's insane. This is the only place in the entire universe where that's happening. and we're just like do normal day. Like there's nothing normal about this.
It's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I've watched in your life over the past few decades is that something as heavy as cancer research didn't weaken your faith. I've watched you continue to grow in your faith, and I feel like this path that God's led you down has actually strengthened it. Talk to me a little bit about how that happened.
So I mentioned that cancer reveals to us these fail-safe mechanisms that are designed to keep us thriving, right? And so there's the scientific side, and then there's the emotional side, if you will. On the scientific side, I see and perceive, because the fall reaches out to us, death reaches out to all of us. You cannot avoid that, right? I've been on a heartbreaking journey with so many people who are affected by cancer, and watched the degeneration. And so on the scientific molecular side, I look at the hallmarks of cancer and I think, okay, we have now revealed how cancer happens, which means we know how to stop it, right? We know if you can stop angiogenesis, which is new blood vessel formation, you can stop it. We know about genes that cause cancer. If we can turn those off, right? We know that your body itself is the cancer. So your immune system is used to seeing you as you and not attacking. But then when you become evil, what is your immune system supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So on the molecular side, this revealing of such a devastating thing also reveals the healthy normal function, and encourages me to take the design I'm seeing and change the way I'm living, so that instead of hallmarks of cancer, we have hallmarks of health. And I'm just filling in the gaps here and making sure I'm healthy on the science side. On the emotional side, it is a view into the human condition of weakness. And it is a view that suggests that working together, sharing our knowledge with each other, helping each other is the way forward.
Wow.
You are a community. You're designed to be a community, and you're designed to be in community. And so cancer is one of your cells. You have 37 trillion cells in your body. If one of those decides to not serve the better, the good, serve the body, if one of those loses its identity as a part of the body and decides to set up its own thing and do its own thing, that's what you call cancer. And so on the emotional side, what I'm learning is that isolation and setting up, like, kind of this cell decides it's better than all the other cells, or this organ decides it's doing more important things than all the other organs, that leads to death in the body. So both at the molecular scientific side and in the more emotional and sociological side, it speaks to me of how we're supposed to be and be healthy and thrive.
You're talking to a pastor. It's all I can say. Oh, that'll preach. But also at the church level, but my goodness, at the personal level, that's a much different way of looking at things that I appreciate. And one of the thoughts I had while you're talking is, like, things are more connected than we think, whether it's cancer research or just our biology and our emotions, our thoughts and our physical bodies. And when you're talking to students or these churches that you go visit, a lot of people feel intimidated by the science side, and they've picked up that somehow the idea challenges faith, or that they shouldn't touch. How do you help people reconcile those two worlds?
I mean, first of all, I get it. Like, I grew up on a farm. And I grew up in New Hampshire. It was very antagonistic to faith, and very staunchly, the Christians up there, we call them the frozen chosen, because it's rough. It's rough up there, and so I totally get it. I was openly mocked in high school for believing in God. And
Really?
yeah, so I
Wow.
totally understand it. Um, and science is supposed to be the alternative, right? And and so I think the first thing I would say is that there's a wonderful quote: "A little bit of science makes you turn away from God, and a lot of science makes you a believer." And this is a paraphrase from several. I think Bacon and Louis Pasteur have both said sort of things like that. But the first thing I would say to a Christian is some of the greatest scientists of all time, particularly in the 19th, 20th, 21st centuries, were Christians. And they believed that the universe was created by God and that we could actually know it, like we could
Hmm.
perceive truth. And because they believed we could perceive truth, they studied the creation. And and so the desire to grow closer to God is what motivated their scientific endeavors. So when you put science and faith together, you get Sir Isaac Newton, you get Galileo, you get Johann Kepler, you get Blaise Pascal, Robert Boyle. Like you get some of the greatest luminaries in the scientific history. Follow the trail, keep going, and you will be led to God. Like you will.
And that reminds me, I mentioned a little bit earlier, for years you've been working on this God of Wonders series.
Yeah.
What inspired you to come up with that, or how did you start cooking that?
I think there was two things going on. One, I am diving into the complexity. Like I'm learning about the unbelievable complexity. 37 trillion cells making up all these different tissue types, all these organs working together, hormones, neurons, electricity, I mean, pressures, and just unbelievable complexity. I mentioned flipping open the hood of a car, and then we're all looking inside the car, and then the teacher would be like, "Yes, isn't it amazing that tornadoes going through junkyards produced all of this complexity?"
Right.
And I was like,
Whoops.
"Wait, how do you believe that an unguided random process produced order? Like, do you
Hmm.
not know the laws of physics? It is logically inconsistent to believe we're in an entropic universe and to believe that entropy is creative. By
Hmm.
definition, it is not. When you
Right.
see enthalpy, when you see order in this universe, it came from somewhere, and entropy was not the source of it.
That's a good word. I've never heard that one before. The opposite of entropy is
Enthalpy.
where things are moving from chaos to order.
Yes. So
All
consider
right.
a seed, right? You
A
you you have a
seed. Okay.
seed. A seed is genetic material in a nutrient package, right? It's potential. And then instead of it degrading into dirt, which is the entropic way
Gotcha.
that we would assume, right? Instead of that, water unlocks its potential. And what comes up out of the ground is more complex than what was planted.
Yeah.
And that the potential is unlocked. And so you get differentiation of tissues. You're producing flowers, you're producing pollen, you're joining an ecosystem, you're increasing in complexity. That's enthalpy, that's life. That doesn't make any sense in an entropic universe. That's just
Yeah.
the pot of gold at the end of your bed, and you're just like, oh yeah, that happens all the time, no problem. No, that's weird. That's super weird.
Yeah. And if any of our listeners or subscribers are keeping track at home, what Dr. Ranahan just said is the reason why the logo of this podcast, a little part of it is a sprout coming up.
Mm.
That's what God's kingdom does. God creates something from nothing. God brings what's dead back to life, and we get to be a part of that.
Yeah, and the God of Wonders series was really just like, again, you flip open the hood of the car and you're like, okay, I don't think a tornado did this. I don't
Yeah.
think entropy is responsible for creating this order that has purpose. I just don't think that that's logical. So then, so then I'm like, okay, so what other options do I have? What is the source of enthalpy in this universe? Let's look to that source and see if it makes sense. Like if it's in scriptures, like where can we detect enthalpy, and what can we know about this enthalpic power? Is the enthalpic power revealing itself? Is the enthalpic power knowable? Does it want to be known? You know what I mean? And then you start to go down that path, and you realize that this enthalpic power has a name. And then all of a sudden, with that lens, looking through that lens on incredibly complex things, it makes perfect sense. In fact, for the first time as a scientist, you can see the meaning behind what you're studying. So imagine I have 3 lines. Okay, so I'm gonna draw. This is old school. This is old school. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna draw for you 3 lines, and okay. So we got 3 lines. We got 2 lines that are pretty much the same length and one that's shorter. So you got 3 lines, right? Okay. Now I can use chemistry and physics to explain to you these 3 lines. I can say that there's ink. Ink is a liquid with pigments in it that can absorb photons of light, and it absorbs them a little bit, and then they reflect back these photons of light. And we could talk about how you have these receptor cells that literally vibrate when the light hits them, and your brain transmits that vibration into a neurological signal, and you perceive it as color. However, if I take these lines that we've just described, and I put them in a particular order, the same 3 lines. Okay, so there's the 2 that are the same length, and the one in the middle is a little bit shorter. So now I've created the letter A. Okay, so I can, as a scientist, I can say to you, this is nothing more than this. These lines just strewed around. It's exactly the same chemistry. It's exactly the same physics. There is nothing beyond that scientific explanation. But you know that this is different. This has now become a symbol. This now carries meaning that the chemistry and physics cannot perceive. And that meaning did not come from within, it came from without. Like it came from outside of itself, right? So in nature, if we see the organization of simple things like lines, and they communicate something to us, then that strongly suggests a communicator. And so we're going to use that as our lens to look at creation. Not just what it is, but what does it mean? Is this trying to tell me something? So, okay, a little bit more practical. This morning I woke up in a body. I believe this body is arranged in such a way that it's not just a body. It's supposed to tell me things. It's supposed to communicate to me. I believe it was designed on purpose, which means the purpose is to sustain life. It's also to teach me why I'm here, who I am, and what I'm supposed to do. My body is. Okay, so here's 3 examples here real quick. One of the things we're doing, you and I are doing right now, is blinking. And we're not even aware of it. We're not thinking about it. It's happening in the background. What's funny is that in order for us to maintain sight, we must continually blink, right? And so you can think of a memory, any memory you want, and your brain will play it like a movie. And what you won't see is the movie's playing, complete, utter darkness. Your brain edits out every single time you blink because you go completely blind. You go completely blind on a regular basis.
That's so cool.
You are also breathing right now. So you have these sacs of very incredible tissue. It's actually remarkable, your lungs. And so in order to stay alive, you breathe. So you actually pull up on your diaphragm, which creates this negative pressure. And so the air outside rushes in and fills that. And then you relax and you compress your lungs to push that back out. And you keep doing this even when you are unconscious. And the last thing that I want to point out is that every day you go about doing your thing and you're conscious. and you're walking around, you're making decisions, you're doing stuff, right? But at the end of the day, that consciousness that you've enjoyed all day, it starts to dwindle. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually you pass out cold. You cease to know who you are, where you are, what time it is, or what's going on. You completely leave consciousness.
That sounds terrifying when you put it that
Yeah.
way.
Okay. Gonna get worse. Ready? Watch
Oh
this.
no, not worse.
Okay. If this is all just random, then there's nothing more to
Uh-huh.
say. It's just a
Yeah.
weird oddity. If we apply that lens that I mentioned, here's what I think. In order for you to maintain sight, you must embrace moments of absolute darkness. It's
Yeah.
almost like the design is trying to get us to let go of our control, even of sight. I'm breathing right now. What that means is that I'm 4 minutes away from death. If I stop breathing, I die, right? And yet I don't feel like I'm 4 minutes from death. Why? Because I just keep breathing. But to breathe itself means I have to make room inside of me to receive that which I do not have. Like I literally have to open up, create room to receive. And what's amazing is that air is freely given. And there's enough for
Yeah.
you, and there's enough for me, and there's enough for everybody. And so we just keep receiving. And the best part is you can't hold on to it. The only way
Yeah.
to do this is to receive and to let it go, and to receive and to let it go. Breathing may just be an accidental thing, or it may actually be teaching us something about how we are to be in this world. And then every night, when you go to sleep, you're practicing death. Every night, you're saying, God, I trust you with my
Mm.
life, with my kids, my family, my body, my wellness, my vulnerability. And every night, you fall asleep, you exit consciousness, you enter oblivion. And then every day you wake up and you're just fine and everything is okay. It's almost like God is helping us practice for death. The kingdom of God is death and resurrection, and we practice every night. So these are the things that strike me as non-coincidental. When we put these little pieces together, we see that they are speaking something to us. It is not random, it is designed, and there's a message that we can receive.
I'm never going to think about breathing the same way again. And we love nerding out over this stuff with you. At the same time, a lot of us are just trying to make it through the day, put one foot in front of the other. Can you continue speaking to those folks about how maybe to take some baby steps towards recapturing a sense of wonder and trusting their creator?
Again, I grew up on a farm, so I'm going to use plant analogies.
Great.
So this plant behind me, this is a bird of paradise, and it speaks to me of how to do what you're saying. Because yeah, I'm tired, and the world is inundating me with sad, depressing, horrible things all day, every day, and it feels like just too much. And I don't want to live in that space. I can't. I can't thrive in that space. So I would say take a look at a plant and and consider what you're looking at. This plant, um, without sunlight, plant dies, and so we know that plants need light to thrive. And if we consider what that is, it's the plant needs to be in the presence of the life-giving source. It needs to like be under. It needs to receive. So if we ask ourselves, hey, what fills the scope of my vision? Like what do I listen to? What do I watch? What am I putting in? What, like, in other words, if I'm basking, what's that light what's the color of the light you're basking in? You know, what is that? The plant takes the light and makes its own food with it. And the conditions on which it needs to be to make its own food is light, is sunlight. So the question that I would say to anybody who is just really having a rough time, what's your sunlight? What is the thing you personally can bask in? What is it that makes you come alive? Where do you sense purpose and meaning and joy? I would bet that if you turn to that which gives you energy, if you can receive it and then take that energy and build something meaningful. There's two parts to thriving. One is to receive. You cannot of yourself, because we're in an entropic universe, you can't just make it happen from within. You were actually made to receive, just like the plant is made to receive sunlight. So you must receive first. You have to put yourself in a position to receive. And then you need to do something with that energy, with that joy, with that hope. You need to build something. You're made in the image of God. He's a creator. So we need to create something. We need to build something. We need to, again, we're made to be in community. Like, we're not going to get the consummation of our joy if we're just receiving and never giving, just like you can't keep breathing and not breathe out. Like, you have to, there has to be that rhythm to it. I think a lot of us have believed this idea that if we just accumulate, there'll be more for me and then I'll be happy. And yet we find the accumulation is only the first step. And then what's the point of it if I'm not creating anything? So I would encourage people not to receive, yes, but receive what gives life, and then create something that will sustain you.
This has been so rich. I love talking with you about all of this stuff. Can we do this again sometime?
Oh, heck
Not to
yeah.
put you on the spot or anything.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'll go on the record.
Okay, good.
Anytime you want to chat, I'm down.
Okay, good. If you want to learn more about Dr. Ranahan's work, like this video, comment on it, subscribe, and stay tuned. There's more good stuff to come. Bill, thank you again. God bless you. And I'm very suspicious in a good way to see what God is going to bring from all that he's been teaching you and all the work that you've been involved in. So keep up the good work, brother. All right. We'll see you next time. God bless you.